So, Conversations with Susanne. Hi, I'm Susanne, and I'm here with Beth Rutty, teacher, two teachers. She has her own studio in Meaford. She is an amazing resource for so many teachers. She's done teacher training for, oh my God, like so many years, right? Beth, how many years? Like over 10, right?
Since 2011 was the first one.
Wow, yeah. And Beth is so full of knowledge. And so today, Beth, what I want to talk about is you know, not only the whole how yoga has changed during COVID, but also, just in general, even before COVID, you finish your teacher training. And when we took teacher training, it was 500 hours.
Yep.
Now they're 200, 250, maybe even 150. Some are just like long weekend kind of things. And then you're sort of, okay, you've graduated, go out and teach. And, we have this saying sort of in our business, like the first 10 years that you're teaching, really the student, you should be paying the student, and the next 10 years, they should be paying you double. And it's so true, right? Because so what you do is really fascinating because you want to continue on. You want to continue that process of helping them learn and helping them grow as teacher, and even like you've given people business tips and all kinds of, like, not only going further in their practice and in being a teacher, but also even how to run their business. So and a lot of this used to be done one-on-one, but now things have kind of changed a little bit. So let's go back to the very beginning. What is the problem with this scenario of this? Okay, you go for a course and then you're a teacher. Can you kind of start with that?
Well, it's kind of like you're the baby bird, and we used to say that in teacher training. It's like, okay, time to push the baby bird out of the nest and learn to fly. And so it's kind of that. And then these baby birds are out in the world and doing their thing. And like I totally agree with what you said about then the learning really begins, because then you're working with real live people. But I think where the disconnect, a little bit of the disconnect for me is, it's like there's so much being offered, and I think it's wonderful. There's so many resources and so many courses, and yoga has really become a marketable thing, different practices, and there's yoga for this and yoga for that and yoga for the other thing. And where the disconnect happens is in teachers really learning how to hone their teaching skills and be more articulate and using language and learning how to sequence, not just from watching what other teachers are doing, or not just from going to classes and saying, oh, I like that routine, or I like that routine. Able to know how to create themselves based on their own experience, but also truly seeing with eyes what your students are doing. And it's a bit of a challenge right now, and has been for the last year, to see our students and to know how they move. And so, being able to transition into a time when we can actually be with people again is going to be great for yoga teachers. And I've heard from various teachers say, you know what, I just feel kind of stale with my teaching. And that's kind of common. I've heard that over the years. And they get inspired by going and looking at things on YouTube. But I don't know, I think it can be a little bit of a short-term fix. What do you think?
For sure. Well, I totally agree it's a short-term fix. And I think that when you haven't had a lot of experience, and let's say you even graduated at the beginning of this, then you're teaching on Zoom. And so I feel the most important thing for a yoga teacher, and when I teach other teachers, is I'm trying to get them to really see the body. And, what is that person, like, how is their posture? How is their feet? How is their whatever? And you can't do that on Zoom. But also there are a lot of teacher training programs, unlike yours, don't really teach them that. They don't really teach them to actually, I feel like even though we had 500 hours, there was that kind of component missing. Like, what are you really seeing in that person? And so therefore, how can you, and I mean, it's kind of like doctors, like do no harm, but yet if you're telling somebody who has a blown out shoulder to do some kind of shoulder exercise and then they do it and it makes it worse, like that's not
Yeah.
a good scenario, and we're
Yeah.
seeing, I work closely with a chiropractor and, an osteopath, and they'll often say like, okay, this person was doing yoga and getting injured. And what is the
Hmm.
teacher's responsibility in that?
Right.
So, and I think that's part of the not knowing, because you can't learn everything you need to learn in 200 hours
Right.
or
Right. Yeah.
500 hours. I mean,
Yeah.
yeah.
I've
So
been,
this
I've
service
been,
that,
yeah, go
sorry, the
ahead.
service that you're offering is so important, because we need to keep learning beyond that teacher training.
Yeah, I've been, what I was going to say is I've been compiling, I've been watching YouTube videos, and I've been watching different places where yoga teachers are offering what they do. And you know what, I just have to say, thank goodness that we have the technology for yoga teachers to continue to teach, first of all, and for students to be able to receive. So it's better than nothing. And it's been great for a
Definitely.
lot of people, because
Yes.
you can be all over the world and do it. So it's wonderful. But I've been compiling a bit of a list of things that I'm hearing yoga teachers saying, instructions that they're giving, their thoughts on shoulds and shouldn'ts in terms of the body and anatomy. And not that I want to say, hey, you're all doing it wrong, because I don't believe that.
No.
It's can you question? And I think sometimes yoga, as us as yoga teachers, we learn from a lineage, or we learn from a teacher, and we mimic them and we follow them. And I think sometimes it takes away from a bigger picture of maybe not everybody moves that way. And it's been a real process for me over the last, I'm going to say 10 years teaching teacher trainings, observing not just how people move, but also how people think in terms of teaching and how people show up. And we're all so unique and different. And I just think it can be so much broader for yoga teachers. You will never be bored again or stale in your practice if you can start looking at how people show up, how people are in their bodies and in their
Yes.
minds, and recognizing that it's different than you.
Right. Right. It's
Yeah.
fascinating, actually. Then it becomes a
Yeah.
fascinating topic, instead of just, and like I think I told you the story before, but I remember I went to this yoga studio, which, should remain nameless, and I took a class and I thought, okay, this is an okay class. But then I went back like a year later or something to try the class, same teacher, and literally the same class as well. And I'm the type of person that gets bored. Like I get bored. And so I want variety and I want difference. And my body has changed in a year and a half, or however long it was in between classes. So um, I don't want my yoga teacher to be teaching from a script where, okay, every, 6 weeks I'm getting the same class.
But this is kind of a classic situation too, where that's my feeling too. But I know there are people out there who
Love it.
love that, know what to
Yes.
expect every time.
Well, the
But I
whole
think when
Bikram
we
thing
come,
is that, right? The whole
yeah,
Bikram
totally, yeah.
studios,
But I
that's
think
what it is.
for me, why I teach the way I teach, and probably the way you teach too, is because when I come back to what yoga is for me, is a process of becoming more aware. And
Yeah.
can I become more aware repeating the same thing over and over again? Maybe. So or is it possible that after a while you can become a little bit more complacent about the movements, because you know what's coming up? And I kind of like to relate my yoga practice or teaching classes to life. And we don't know what's going to happen in any given day. You can decide that I think I'm going to do this for my day, but things happen, as we know, that throw a whole bunch of wrinkles into the work, including all the wrinkles on my pashmina. and you don't know.
I just thought that was part of the
Know.
design.
Yeah.
Yeah. But also,
I'm okay with it.
so it's kind of like your awareness like you as aware as a teacher, but also what I think is important is that you're also aware of what your students are feeling and sensing and what's
Yeah.
going on in their bodies. And in this time of COVID, you're right, when we're doing Zoom classes, we don't always know that, but I like to start my classes off by asking, what's going on with you guys? How are you feeling?
Yeah.
Is anybody because maybe I have a really vigorous practice and everybody's saying, oh my God, this weather today, Suzanne, I'm so fried,
Yeah.
so that connection is more difficult on Zoom, but even if we don't take that into account, but that
Yeah.
is something you want to be is aware. And I teach by watching my students,
Yeah.
I have a set of things I would maybe like to present to them, but then if I see or hear what, no, that's not really going well because they're not doing what I'd hope would happen, then I've got to be able to look and say, okay, I got to change my plan,
Yeah.
and that's important. And I think that takes confidence though. And I think that's
Yeah.
where this
Oh my goodness.
mentorship can really come into play, because you are going to develop confidence in teachers so that they can be more spontaneous. Don't you think?
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, that's kind of my hope. And I kind of follow along with Brene Brown. I know you and I mentioned her a lot because we love her so much. But her definition of a leader is someone who takes responsibility for potential and empower potential in people and empowering them. And
Right.
that's what I want to do. I want to say, hey, you know what? I don't want to make you a carbon copy of me. If you are
Yes.
happy as a yoga teacher teaching the same class over and over again, and your students love that, then there's not an issue. That's who
Yeah,
you are as a
exactly.
teacher, and you've got your people who want that, who like the repetition. And there's no reason that we can't say that's yoga as well. It doesn't have to be what I think is yoga. But if you're the kind of teacher who is saying, you know what, I feel stale, I feel like I'm bored with my teaching, or I want to keep coming up with funky and fun and weird and wonderful sequences and poses, but I can't do it on my own, like that's where I want to empower you to go, okay, what's the next step for you from where you're at right now? Not jump to, hey, I want to do what Sean Korn's doing, or whoever your idols are in the
Yeah.
yoga teaching community, but what's the next step? And that's what I think.
Yeah.
I can do that. I
So
have that
so
skill
what
set.
you're really helping them do is find themselves and their own personality, their own style, and you're helping them grow with that, because like you said,
Yeah.
every student is different, every teacher is different. And I mean, the thing is, even the teacher who is doing the same thing all the time, what will happen, because we know this, is that they'll have a student come in and say, well, I can't do that pose any like right now because I've got a sore foot or I've got this, and they
Yeah.
still need to be able to address that.
Hmm.
But because the more things stay the same, the more they change. There are always going to be changes in your students and in your classes as they develop in
Yeah.
their practice. But yeah, I think what you're saying is that what you want to do is help bring out their true nature, and it doesn't
Yeah.
have to be anything like yours. Like, it could be a totally different thing.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
And
for sure.
I have a pretty good understanding of anatomy, and not to say that I know everything, because that's not anywhere near. I still feel like every day like I know a little bit. I know the tip of the iceberg, and I'm so curious. And I think curiosity is a big part of it too. If you can be a yoga teacher who's curious about things, and to be able to question what you think you know, it doesn't matter that you've been teaching something one way for a number of years. If you question it and kind of go, you know what, I have a new understanding, a new relationship with it. I'm going to flow and kind of go here. And, I think you and I were talking, maybe you and I were talking about a conversation that someone was having on Facebook about myths in yoga. Was it you and I
Yes.
talking about that? Yeah.
No,
And how
I don't think
angry
so, but
people, there were yoga teachers getting
you
quite
know what? I think we did talk about
angry
this. Yeah.
about it. Yeah,
Yes.
and I was just curious about the conversation itself and how it was going. And people what it looked like, people very protective of what they know and not wanting to question it, or this is the truth. But I think what we forget is this is the truth for you, and the truth for you can change at any time. Because do you believe the same things you believed when you were a teenager? like the
Yeah.
world
Yeah.
revolves around you,
Yeah.
like you said, it's ever changing. And yeah, I think as a yoga teacher, to be sustainable as a yoga teacher for yourself,
Yeah.
um, and for your students to continue to want to study with you, there's got to be something that gives you the oomph, that where do I want to go next? What do I want to offer the people?
Mhm.
How do I want to serve? And I think it's an ongoing conversation. And if we get too this is mine and this is what I believe, I think it's challenging. If we don't challenge the belief, and like it's okay to challenge the belief and kind of think it through and feel it and go to reputable sources to confirm or deny, not social media. And
Yeah.
then at the end of the whole process, kind of go, yeah, I still believe that. Then
Yeah.
you've done your due diligence. But if you get
Yes.
to a place where it's like, I'm confused and I don't know if I understand that, I think it's totally okay to say to your students, hey, let's explore this. This is what
Yes.
I've always taught. Now let's try this. I'd like your feedback. That's a great way of teaching. I love
Yeah.
doing that because
Yeah.
it's an exploration.
Yeah. And I think that's the thing with an experienced teacher, because you've sort of come into contact with all kinds of scenarios. That there's not just one way. There's variations. There's a way for people to do things that, maybe your hand has to go this way for one pose, but for one person, I mean, but it has to go this way for another person, because there are options,
Yeah.
and there are variations, and yoga should be accessible to everybody, you know
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
sometimes when it's too I was going to say like gymnastics or whatever, it's not accessible to a lot of the population because they just don't have, at the beginning anyways, those abilities.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. And a bit of still, I think in the yoga world, a bit of I'm going to say obsession, maybe it's too strong a word, with flexibility. Because
Totally. Yes.
it's so one-sided to say we practice yoga to get more flexible. And I do think that it's changing and there's a lot more strength component, but it's really, if you could swing too far that way too, it's really about finding the balance of both in everything you do. And
Mhm.
that's in life too.
Yeah,
It's
exactly.
balancing. To me, that's another definition of yoga, is balancing the opposites of life. It's not
Yeah.
just on your yoga mat. It's everywhere.
And it's like, because like I get calls from people, I'm going to do my yoga thing, or like old students, or students' daughters, or people, sons, whatever, and they'll say, I'm going to do my teacher training, like, what do you think, and how do I start off this? And there's and one of the things I always say is like, well, just like, why are you doing it? Like, why are you doing this yoga thing? Because the majority of us are not making millions of dollars from it. So if that's your aim, like if you're thinking, I just want to be on TV, or do this, well, and how's that working for a lot of people right now too?
Hey,
Like all the people,
we're all on TV right
we're
now
all
with
on
Zoom.
TV now. Yeah, with Zoom. Yeah, but you know what I'm saying? Like,
Yeah, I
yeah,
do. Yeah, yeah,
getting a big contract from some, Netflix or something. I
yeah.
mean, I'm not saying it's not possible, because it is, but
Yeah. And that's
yeah,
probably been the common thread through all of the years that I've done teacher training, is the first day meeting everybody and asking, what's your story and why are you
yeah,
here? And inevitably the beautiful stories about yoga coming into their lives at a time, or being introduced to yoga at a time when they were suffering, and how it relieved them of their pain, and how they want to give back. Like that to me is the majority
yeah.
of
That's
what
a great
I'm
story.
hearing
Yeah,
from yoga teachers, or yoga new like trainees. And
yeah,
I think it's probably good to check in as a yoga teacher. Am I still doing that?
yeah.
Are the reasons still the same? And am I doing what I set out to do? Am I helping to relieve people's suffering? It's
Right.
not about a popularity contest.
Yeah.
Um, it's yeah, can I evolve in my teaching? Just like any profession, can I evolve in my profession to go deeper and to serve on a different level? That's where I'm at. That's where I say, you know what, that will always keep your teaching practice fresh.
Right. This is kind of a little off topic, but in the same topic. That's why I think it's very sad when a yoga studio is hiring yoga teachers and the qualification that they have to have is so many likes on social media or on Facebook or
Yeah.
Instagram, because that does not really tell anything about the quality of the teacher. And I was actually shocked to find that was a big thing for a lot of
Yeah.
studios.
I
You
didn't know
can't be
that.
hired.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was totally blown away by that. But that's what a lot of people are telling me. Oh yeah, you don't even apply there unless, like, for them, I have
Yeah.
no interest. But unless you have so many Instagram likes, followers or whatever. So that's a kind of sad scenario. Because I mean,
Yeah.
when
Yeah.
we started yoga, it was still very much the teacher to student relationship, and I think that's what you're
Yeah.
trying to promote again, that student to
Yeah.
teacher relationship.
Yeah.
Rather than just online where you're
Yeah.
not seeing the person or having any kind of relationship. Because
Yeah. Yeah.
yoga community is important as well. And
Yeah. For sure.
you've done a lot, that you've built a community in your area where you have, through your courses and through your emails and stuff like that, kept in touch with people.
Yeah, yeah, and I did the bulk of my teacher training in Oakville, and I'm from Burlington, so I have a beautiful community there, and lots of them have come up here. And when we can open up again, people can come back here, and I have spaces for
Yeah.
people to stay, and have got a restorative training coming up. We postponed it. It was supposed to be this weekend or next weekend, and now we're pushing it back into August and possibly October, depending on how things transpire. But in the meantime, I had this idea, and maybe I can just bounce it off you and other people about, that I know the expense of having a mentor can be high, and I try to keep it so that it has a value to it because of the expertise and the years of me doing this stuff. And that's all on my website. You can look at the different packages I have available. But I also thought, well, maybe I can do once in a while, like do a group mentorship program where you can sign up. I'll only take maybe 10 people, and you send me a couple of questions that you have about teaching or about anatomy or asana, and then in an hour and a half to 2 hours to 3 hours, depending on what the questions are, we have this conversation. We can do that over Zoom, and it's in a group, so it makes it more affordable than doing it one-on-one. But I really think to come back to the idea of a one-on-one can be so valuable, because everything that I do will be tailored to your needs. So the
Yes.
process that I go through is to have a phone conversation with you first, then hear about in general what's going on, what are you looking for. Then I send you some questions that you answer. You send your answers back to me, I create an agenda, and then we have our meeting. And hopefully,
Wow,
I think it's a
okay.
good idea to do more than one. And it's geared to you. And I had someone ask me once, are you doing a course on anatomy? And I said, no, I don't have anything planned right now. But just off the cuff, I said, but if you book 3 sessions with me, and we do some preparation work, and you tell me what you know, because that's important for me to know what you know, and I can help figure out what you don't know.
Right.
And you can tell
Yeah.
me what you're looking to know. I can probably put together 3 sessions, and you probably will pay the same amount of money that you would for a weekend anatomy course, but it will be
Right.
tailored to what you need. And a
What
lot
you
of the
need.
times when you go to a course, there's a lot of stuff already. And so,
Yes.
you're
Yeah.
kind of cherry picking. So those are kind of the 2 things that I wanted to throw out there. And what do you think about a group session? What do you
I
think? Would
think
that fly?
I think a group section is excellent because you can learn off of other people. Like, again, you don't know what you don't know, and then somebody else asks a question
Yeah.
or has a situation. You go, oh yeah, like I never even thought of that. So I think I love group teaching, and and I do hope we get to go back to that. And you and I, we've worked together, like we've co-taught, we've attended each other's seminars as both guests and helpers and whatever. So I love the group idea, and even if it's on Zoom, like, and you're all
Mm-hmm.
asking questions or whatever, I think it's good. I love group energy, and I think that you learn so much from each other as well as from the teacher, and then it gives you more variety as a teacher, because everybody's got a different, oh, and I learned this, and you get to challenge that,
Yeah.
or support it, would either one.
Right.
So
Yeah.
yeah, that
Yeah.
was the first
Or
idea.
give another perspective.
Yeah. And the individual mentorship and the anatomy for sure. I think like, I mean, I took anatomy, I can't remember how long our course was. It was quite long. I don't know. We did, and we had assignments to do and all this kind of stuff. But I feel like I've learned most of my anatomy on my own through my own research. I don't feel like I really learned that much in that course. I would like to, like, I would certainly like to do something like that. Say, okay, what am what am I missing? Like, what is there some things like, but yet I would never sit through a whole anatomy course, even for a
Right.
weekend, because I probably know 90% of it. That's just me because I've been around
Yeah.
for so long. But
Yeah. Yeah.
so the individual idea is, I think, amazing, and the fact that you would custom a program to a student, I think that's amazing.
Yeah.
And I mean, yeah, I think and I think also when you're saying keeping it reasonably priced is so important, because there's, like, I was looking at a course, and again, I won't mention who it was with, but I was looking at a course I really wanted to take, but the cost of it was astronomical in American
Mm.
dollars,
Yeah.
and I just thought, oh, this is such a shame. I just don't have the money right now. I might take it in the future, but so I think keeping things reasonable is nice, but also
Yeah.
valuing the knowledge that you're giving. So charging enough
Yeah.
that
Right.
you don't,
Exactly.
yeah, that you
And
are valued.
as a yoga teacher, I struggled a little bit. And I'm going to say, as a woman, I think many women struggle with money issues and self-worth in terms of money. I mean, there's a lot of people out there that probably haven't, but that's because I've been there and kind of had to go through a process of figuring that, it's not just my time that's of value. It's everything that's come before that intellectual property.
100%.
And so if someone is trying to figure out how to price themselves in this market, don't give it all away. In
Yeah.
social
Well,
media, unfortunately, there's a lot of that happening. And
yeah.
what some people don't realize is that if these well-known people are doing YouTube yoga classes, they're getting paid. So it's hurting, like, a lot of other yoga teachers who are just trying to struggle through. And like you said, we're not millionaires.
Yeah. Well, the majority of us, I mean, are like, in my circle of teachers that I know, and I know like quite a few, and you probably know even way more than me, like a lot of them aren't even teaching anymore. Like a lot of them have given it up.
Yeah,
A lot of
which
them
is,
could not maintain students, which is,
yeah,
like, if you can't maintain a practice, then, it's very hard to be a yoga teacher. A lot of
yeah,
them went into it thinking, okay, as long as I rent a space and I put my shingle out, I'm going to be there, but they didn't consider any of the marketing that needs to be done. But then also it's just like, how do you keep your students? And that's a big issue, I think.
yeah,
For a lot of teachers, I mean, you and I have both seen, like, in studios too, like, somebody gets hired, and it goes good for the first 2 weeks because they're new and different, and then after that their attendance just drops down. So
mhm,
there's something going on there.
yeah,
Often you can't explain it sometimes even. um
yeah,
but yeah, so I think those are great ideas. And I just, so what you're offering right now is individual mentorship, where they can
mhm,
come, and you, like you said, you'll talk to them, you'll have them, you'll send them a survey, ask them questions, you're basically setting a program up just for them, which is so
yeah,
unique, right?
yeah,
So
mhm,
that's amazing. And then the second thing you're offering is, or thinking of offering, but hopefully you'll get this, some details out to us soon, is a group
yeah,
mentorship kind of
yeah. It's
situation
an
as well.
idea I've had, and I, wondered whether it's something people would want. So maybe anyone listening to this, shoot me an email if it's something you're interested in. And
Yeah. Yeah.
got to put
Yeah.
myself out there, and that's scary sometimes. I get that, you know.
I mean, if, like, from what I see looking at you, and I've known you for quite a few years, and I've taught with you, and I know, like, I mean, honestly, people, like, what Beth offers is so valuable, and she has so much knowledge. So, like you say, that's the thing. Like, not everybody has the level of knowledge that you have from all these years of teaching. So I think, and you're so good with people too. So I think and you want, like you said, the purpose is always in your heart, that you've always wanted
Yeah.
the best for people and to help people like learn and grow and be loving and kind. And
Yep.
I really feel through this COVID too, that in my teaching too, I'm really focusing on this love and compassion piece for ourselves, but also for others as well. And
Yeah.
in this world of, like you said, social media, in this world of conflicting and controversies, like, let's get down to the core,
Yeah.
so that's really important. So I think you have so much to offer, and I think you're a
Thanks,
great mentor.
Suzanne.
And
Thank you.
yeah, and I think people would be, silly, absolutely silly not to look
Well,
into this for sure, or
I
talk to
very
you.
much value your opinion, and I value the conversations we've had over the years and the knowledge that you have and that you've offered me. And, I think having a network of yoga teachers in your life too,
Yes.
is important. And
Yeah.
I can help with that too. Like I can connect people and we can have conversations like this with other yoga teachers. And
Yeah.
yeah, it's
And
important to have support.
and you know a lot of people, you can connect people. Okay, like maybe somebody wants to open their own studio, so somebody, well, you've done it yourself, but maybe somebody else who's opened up in a big city or in a small town or whatever, and
Yeah.
people who just want to work with a certain population like cancer, so then you have somebody, okay, why don't you talk to that person, or the pelvic floor, or whatever. So you have so many contacts that you can help that person with, which have them talk to other people and share ideas. I had mentioned earlier, this is sort of my last question, but are you helping them as well with that marketing component, and that how do you get students, and is that part of this mentorship?
Yeah, totally. My background was, I'm not going to say prior to being a full-time yoga teacher, it was kind of like yoga, and I was a graphic designer. So they were kind of like graphic designer, yoga, well, and fitness instruction, and then yoga teaching, and then graphic design kind of left, and in a formal way. But I still am promoting myself, and, still navigating myself how this social media thing works, and how challenging it is to be a yoga teacher who's doing it all yourself. And you and I have had conversations about that, and like along the vein of this conversation here about how, can we get back to the one-on-one and the word of mouth and supporting, do you have to be successful in whatever you deem successful to be? Do you have to be doing it through social media? So I have enough of an idea. I may not do it all myself because I don't always find that it works for the audience that I have, or the group of followers that I have. But it is part of the way you need to market these days. So yeah, I'm good at suggesting, hey, if you want to get what that person has, you got to do it this way. And so I can see it, and I can suggest, and then someone else might say, hey, you know what, I'm just not great with the social media. Is there anything else I can do? So yeah, I have other ideas for that too. So yeah, it's all the whole package.
Yeah, and also if you want to teach, maybe in a studio where they do all the work for you, then that's a whole different scenario, right? So they, but you still have to be able to sort of self-promote yourself within that class to help people coming, and knowing a little bit about your sort of, in lingo, that brand. So good, excellent. So how best do people start with you? How do they contact you? Through email? You want them to email you, or?
Yeah, I mean, they can go to my website to see the lay of the land first, which would be lost my bethruttyyoga.com. That's it. It's really easy. And if they want to email me, my email is all over there, all over my website, but it's beth@bethruttyyoga.com. And I'm also on Instagram as Beth Rutty Yoga. I'm on Facebook as Beth Rutty Yoga. I'm on YouTube as Beth Rutty Yoga. So it's pretty easy, I think, to find me.
Okay, that's awesome. That's great. Well, thank you so much for
Yeah.
this conversation today. And yeah, and we'll need to get the word out to all our.
Yeah, thank you so much, Suzanne, for always being a supporter, such a great leader yourself in promoting what everybody's doing in the world. That the people in your community, the things that you find interesting that you want to share with people. It's very inspiring, and for always being such a good friend and a supporter of whatever I do. Thank you.
Love you. Namaste.
Love you too.
All
Okay.
right.
Have a great day.
You too. You too. And everybody have a great day. Thanks for tuning in.